on the stream is going to be the importance of Spriggans and Spinners in Battlegrounds. You know, typically I haven't given out a lot of my PvP secrets because, you know, I mean, I'm just kind of selfish to a point, I guess. I guess we all could be selfish, and I guess I have that that as well. But, you know, yesterday I was doing some Battlegrounds because I'm trying to get still accustomed to the Sorcerer, and somebody had asked me, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're killing people left and right on some of these kills. And I personally still suck at the Sorcerer, to be honest with you guys. So I don't really consider myself to even be really good at the Sorcerer. But, you know, my kill-death ratio is pretty high at that time. And somebody had asked me, and I just told them, I said, well, it depends on your sets. And they're like, using Battleground sets, right? And I'm like, Battleground sets is a good secondary set or primary, depending. And I'm like, but if you're going to do damage, any significant amount of damage in a Battleground, you're going to need Spinners or Spriggans. It's just going to be that way. And the reason being, because let's get into this, okay? Let me get into my character sheet and let's go over this. My spell resistance is currently 17,928 and physical resistance. There's no drop in resistance. There's no cut value. Anytime in anything in Cyrodiil, anything in a Battleground, values are usually cut in half, except resistance. All right? Now, in Cyrodiil, this doesn't apply. Why? Right? Because we have champion points. We have other traits. We have the Lover Mundus. We can take this, apply these effects. Now, for Magicka users, you probably still could get around it, but here's the problem. You only got 4,884 in your light armor passives, right? So basically, the whole idea here is when you go down, you go into where is trying to find it. It should be penetration. Right here. Concentration. You're going to get 4,884. That's if you're wearing light armor, right? Medium armor does not get that. Neither does heavy armor, which I'm currently in heavy armor. There's no penetrating values into those passives. So for light armor, you could go ahead, say you have 4,884, and you can go ahead and let's say you're running the Lover, but you're not going to run all Divine, so you're going to get about 3,000. That's only going to be 7, and let's say you add another effect, like I'm going to be using Ellie Drain, right, which is going to give me another 5,000, right, 280. So the whole idea is I want to anticipate people having at least a minimum of between 14 to 16. Now tanks are going to have a lot more than that. So when I go ahead and anytime somebody's going to use resistance, and they should, because you know that's to your advantage as a PvPer, my resistance now is 23. I'm not getting cut values, man. You're going to have to go ahead for maximum amount of delivery and damage. You're going to have to get closer up to 23k, right? So there's no CP system in Battlegrounds. Now in Cyrodiil we can offset these into our champion points, these penetrating values. So you can go into the champion system and you can put into your penetrating values. But in Battlegrounds you can't do that. There's no CP. Spell erosion does me no good. Same thing with piercing. It does me no good in a Battleground. So the dominant sets in Battleground, I'm not saying it's going to be BIS, because there's ways, depending on your build or what you're trying to accomplish, that's never always going to be the case. But in a majority of situations, Spinners and Spriggans are going to be the powerhouses in Battlegrounds because there's no CP, right? It's just fact. There's no CP. So I told the guy, I was like, if you want to deal a significant amount of damage, you're going to want penetrating value. You're just going to want to. It's a necessity. Somebody has to really go ahead and do a shitload of damage to me. And it doesn't matter what the tooltip says. The tooltip's not going to deliver without the penetrating value. So Spinners and Spriggans is very important if you're going to do any type of Battleground build. Cyrodiil, you can get around it. Any other build, PvE, PvP, and Cyrodiil, get around it. Battlegrounds, not so much. And I think until something changes, those two sets are going to be dominating in competitive battlegrounds. It's just the way it is. Now, you could take any other secondary set and apply it. But so, for example, my spinners is set on the back bar, right? So my static is my Julianas. The reason I want Julianas to be static is because I'm going to be using other effects that when I'm using spell damage, it's increasing those abilities and not my damage. My primary damage bar is set here, so when I go ahead and do more of my penetrating value damage, I want it set on the back bar, not the primary. So they're all going to be slightly different, your build parameters. But Spinners and Spriggans, man, you guys have to take in consideration if you're going to be a battleground player. Those are very two dominant sets. You cannot get around it. You just can't, because those penetrating values, there's no cut to penetrating values in Cyrodiil and Battlegrounds. So unlike any other stat that's going to get cut, and remember, health gets boosted up, right? We get a buff in health. We get decreases in damage, right? Everything's cut in half. Our stat sheet might not be reflective, but our abilities are. So how are we going to go ahead and maximize the penetration for our abilities? Well, we have to use penetrating sets like Spinners and Spriggans. So that's unfortunate because we can't bank. Now, stamina users, you can use Sharpen, and let's say you go Spriggans. You use Sharpen, right? You're probably still going to have a crit set, because the reason being, you're still going to need more penetrating value. You're going to need the lover in that situation. It's more detrimental, where, Magicka users are going to have a little bit more flexibility. This is just Battlegrounds we're talking about, guys. So I always tell people, can you be competitive without the sets? Yes, this is true. You can be competitive without the sets. That's not an issue. But the question of it is, who's going to have the advantage? Who's going to deal out more damage when it comes down to those little clutch moments? Those people with the penetrating value sets. Anything with penetration is going to have a little bit of a slight advantage. It's not to say that they're going to be the winner or the most powerful, because that goes to each player's play style. So, yeah. It's crazy, guys. I know. I was holding on to this forever, like, clutching it, just like, wow, I see so many people grabbing Battleground sets. Some of the sets are good, but they're not good enough, right? And I think ZeniMax really needs to take a look at how some of these sets that they're putting out for Battlegrounds is actually hindering players' ability to compete in Battlegrounds. It's kind of like an oxymoron in a way, These are Battleground sets that you're acquiring for doing Battlegrounds, but really, I don't even use any Battleground sets. I've tried. They need to revamp Battleground sets. But that's my opinion. But I'm actually going to go ahead and cut this session. I'll close it out, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a live stream doing some Battlegrounds. I'm still getting accustomed to it on this character. But there you guys have it. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I want to thank you guys for watching today, and once again and always, have a nice day.